Welcome everybody to Cocoa Town's Empowering Chocopreneurs webinar series. We're so excited to have you here with us today and to have Valerie Beck from Chocolate Uplift, who's going to talk to us about the relationship with the bean to bar chocolate distributor and how to maximize the benefit of that relationship. So first thing we're going to do is talk about real quick. Well, you notice that we're missing someone today, Mrs. Balu, who's normally with us if you've been with us before, and she sends her regards and she hopes to be back at our next Empowering Chocopreneurs webinar. And what she normally does is she will give the talk about Cocoa Town or introduction to Cocoa Town for those of you who haven't been with us before. And for those of you who have, welcome back. So I'm going to give that quick introduction to Cocoa Town. And then we will move right into Valerie's presentation. All right, so Cocoa Town has a parent company, and that parent company is Eno Concepts, which was founded in 1992 by Mrs. Balu. And it started as a company that traded innovative specialty food processing machines for South Indian food primarily. And during the life of that company, they realized that the machines could be used for other gourmet foods. And when the recession hit in 2007, they decided that they needed to pivot. And through that, the Cocoa Town was born. So they wanted to switch the focus to an industry where they had the ability to make a positive social impact. And in 2006, they learned that in the chocolate industry, there was not a lot of people trying to make chocolate in small batches because they couldn't find the right equipment. And so through that, Cocoa Town was born. Cocoa Town has a multi-pronged approach to sustainability. It's very important to us that there's sustainability of the environment, sustainability of business and agriculture. Sustainability of the environment in that Cocoa Town creates machines that are easy to repair and replace the parts. You don't have to, if the machine breaks down, you don't get rid of it. It doesn't end up in the landfill. You can repair it and replace parts and keep it running. Even when you scale up to a larger size machine, the smaller machines, if you have those, they can be still kept in use for doing testing, recipe development, and then sustainability of business. We want to put chocolate makers in business and keep them in business through things like these Empowering Chocopreneurs webinars. Also during normal lifetimes, we have our bean to bar workshop where we invite international experts to come in and teach the bean to bar process and the business. And then also agricultural. It's very important to Cocoa Town to empower cocoa farmers or cacao farmers. We want to empower them to make a better wage for themselves through empowering them with machines and education. So in 2009, the objectives, Cocoa Town objectives were to enable chocopreneurs with equipment and resources, help farmers produce flavor beans, help them to make chocolate at origin, also to facilitate evolution of cocoa into a superfood. Well, it is a superfood, but to bring that awareness to the world. And then also to help chocolate makers, bean to bar chocolate makers, switch the perception of chocolate from a junk food to a health food. And as you see here, this is a little timeline of Cocoa Town, and along its journey from 1994 to 2021, along the way, many machines have been innovated and also patented. In 2014, we started the bean to bar workshops. And in 2020, we started this Empowering Chocopreneurs webinar series. The Cocoa Town objectives now are to empower chocopreneurs and cocoa farmers through education, equipment, and evaluation tools. Also, we are working on something we're really excited about, and that is our online Cocoversity to provide resources and education. And then by constantly developing new lines of machines and accessories to meet the needs of the bean to bar chocolate industry. What does the future hold? Well, we hope it holds a return to normal life where we can meet friends and family face to face, but we want to continue these virtual connections but then also foster the more personal in-person connections. And Mrs. Balu always ends the talk or ends her introduction with a prayer, and that is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. And the meaning of that is, may all beings everywhere in the universe be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to the happiness and to freedom for all. And lastly, we want to thank our CocoaTown family, our families, our employees, our customers, farmers, mentors, industry leaders, industry organizations, God, nature, universe, however you express that. All right, so with that, okay, so then the last thing I want to do before we turn it over to Valerie is, I just wanted to ask Valerie a couple of questions, just so that we can get to know you. Valerie, my first question is, folks that have been here before will know, this is one of my favorite questions. Can you share with us something that you wish you knew, something that you know now that you wish you knew when you got into the business?
Oh, that's a great question. And thank you, Teresa, for having me, first of all. And I send hugs as well to Balu and Andal, and can't wait for us all to hug again in person for sure. So yes, in terms of something that I know now that I wish I knew then, I remember as a little girl hearing kids at school say that I shouldn't eat so much chocolate. And that never made any sense to me, because chocolate is love. And so I wish I knew back then the words to express to them that when you're eating pure chocolate, it does nothing to hurt you. It only helps you. And isn't it wonderful that today, all of us and all of our different capacities in the craft chocolate community get to share that love. My mission is uplift through chocolate. That's the mission of the business. And I love how it resonates with what you've just described, Therese. And it, of course, resonates, I feel, with what all of us do in, again, our own way to share chocolate. So again, I wish that as a kid, I even had those words to simply express that eat real chocolate and it does you real good.
Thank you for that. I was going to ask, when did your passion for chocolate begin, or your mission? But you talked about your childhood and that maybe that's what sparked the love. But can you?
Well, I have more. Yeah, thank you. I have a little story about that for you too. So it's true, I've been a chocolate maniac pretty much my whole life, and maniac can have such negative connotations. We'll go back to lover, chocolate lover my whole life. And I remember the first time I tried chocolate milk. I was one of those little kids who, I think I was born vegetarian. I still am vegetarian today. I was maybe born vegan. I sometimes sort of tease a little bit and say I'm veganish, because if there's a dark milk chocolate bar that you all are making, I would love to eat that dark milk chocolate bar. Right here with me, I've got Dick Taylor's brown butter bar. I've got some other goodies that are non-vegan. But in any case, point being, even as a little kid, I didn't want to drink my milk. And so I remember going to kindergarten one day and sort of fighting off the milk again. And the teacher had an idea. She brought me chocolate milk. Wow, I thought, how come nobody ever told me before there was such a thing as chocolate milk? It still tasted like milk, but it tasted like chocolate milk. So that was an improvement. And I went home and told my mother, Mommy, guess what? They've invented a way to put chocolate in milk. And she said, that's great. I'm glad you've discovered this invention. And so from that day forward at kindergarten, I was given the chocolate milk. Now I think the other kids were a little bit jealous. I was always happy to share. And so that, you might say, got me started on a road of understanding that chocolate can come in many delivery mechanisms. And it got me interested in learning, how did they get the chocolate into the milk? Where does chocolate come from? I didn't want to follow that up with milk so much, but I wanted to know, where does chocolate come from? How is it made? What's it really all about? So that sort of sparked some initial curiosity into the process behind the chocolate when I first tasted chocolate milk as a little girl. Today, people call me the chocolate auntie, and I feel so honored and so grateful. Why do people call me the chocolate auntie? It's because it's because I'm old. It's because I'm sort of teasing myself. It's because I combine my years and years and years of chocolate experience, of entrepreneurship, of law. That's a solid part of my background that I bring to your service whenever needed, and also my love of chocolate and people. And Auntie loves you, and Auntie feeds you. Whenever we had our big chocolate festivals, like the Northwest Chocolate Festival, for example, when we were doing these festivals in person, I'd end up hosting these dinners, the chocolate uplift semi-impromptu dinners. I want to make sure you eat. So an auntie makes sure that you've got food. And an auntie is there to listen and to give you advice when asked, but also to help you discover what is the advice that you already know you want to follow. What is your heart already telling you? And if you can't quite hear your heart, your auntie will help amplify that message for you. So I feel very grateful. One final quick story about that, and we'll move on. So at the most recent festival that many of us were at the Craft Chocolate Experience in San Francisco, March 2020, maybe you were there too. People were referring to me as Chocolate Auntie. And again, I felt so just grateful and humbled by that. And I was sort of joking about it with Domontis of Chocolate Naive and said, oh, you know, people are calling me the Chocolate Auntie. Isn't that just too funny? And he looked at me very seriously and he said, but you are. And that just touched my heart. And so I have happily adopted that moniker. I suppose I need now to buy the URL and start the hashtag or all that kind of thing. But so throughout the presentation, which we'll get into the heart of it, I'll share some auntie's advice. And what I always love to remind people, whether it's a corporate group at a tasting I'm giving or a retailer that is looking at what chocolate to add to their shelves, I'll share that one of the things I always look for are these 5 S's. Slavery free. Isn't it crazy that we even have to say that today? But yes, we want to make sure that our chocolate nourishes people and planet, doesn't harm people and planet. Soy-free to me also means any type of lecithin-free, no industrial additives whatsoever. And this is my choice. I know that there are different makers and different eaters and different retailers who make a different choice. And Auntie says it's all about your freedom of choice. My choice is no industrial additives, sustainable or soil regenerative, small batch because I love working with entrepreneurs, and scrumptious because if I don't love it, how can I share it? So again, everybody might have a different set of what makes first class craft chocolate so incredibly exciting. These are my 5 S's that I love to follow. Sweet home Chicago is where I am. There I was in Ecuador. I consult with cacao growers as well as trade commissions like Pro Ecuador. And then just a couple more photos to show you before we jump into the heart of it. Who's this pretty lady up there in the red? Can you see her? That's our dear Andal, and I'm again just so grateful that through her outreach I was able to be here today. Whenever we're at a festival, I always put together a photo montage just showing some of the fun that we had. Okay, if you're still with me, thank you. And should we get on to you? This is about what you share with the world and how a distributor might be able to help you. So what does a distributor do? Well, there are wide differences between what any one distributor might do, just as there might be wide differences between what any chocolate maker might need. And so let's kind of get into some of this exciting diversity. You know, when my tour business closed, that is to say it was stolen by Amazon and Groupon, that's a whole other story. They started selling cheap knockoff tours using my name and trademarks and intellectual property, pretending to be me. So not right, not even legal. And so when I had to close that business due to all of the commotion, I realized, but wait, even though I didn't have my precious business that I poured my heart, my love, my money, everything into, you know how it is, what they could not take away from me were my relationships, my love of chocolate, my knowledge of the business. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to bring all of that to you. So why don't we talk about the differences between the types of titles or the types of collaborators who you might already be working with or might be thinking of working with. And so I've listed them here, and sometimes we just sort of, I don't know, put them all under the title of distributor, or we might say broker distributor. All of these titles are different ways to collaborate. And again, our goal here will be to help you decide which one, if any, or which combination, if any, will help you fulfill your goals. It's all about collaboration and uplift through chocolate. So the first question I would like to ask you is, what do you want and what do you not want? For example, do you want a transaction or a relationship? What type of venues would you like to see your chocolate sold in? Would these be upscale shops and cafes? Would these be grocery stores? Would these be other types of venues? Where would these venues be, in a specific city or town or country? You get what I'm saying, right? What are your goals? Other questions to toss out to you before we talk about, okay, what does the distributor do? What does the broker do, etc. Other questions that I'd like to invite you to ponder. Are you interested in upfront, quote, guaranteed sales by selling your chocolate to a distributor who will then resell, and that will be a higher cost to you generally? Or are you more interested in custom brokered sales where you might ship directly to the retailer and a broker will facilitate? And again, we'll go into more specific details, but I'm just tossing out these questions. Sometimes a distributor can mean upfront sales at a higher cost to you, and a broker can sometimes mean later sales at a lower cost to you. So it's just factoring in time and guarantees. Couple more questions before we move on. Do you want to know where your chocolate goes? Do you want a distributor to just buy it and then you might not ever hear where those chocolate bars end up? Or do you want to know the retailers who are carrying your chocolate on their shelves? Do you even want freedom to sell directly to other retailers? And final two questions for now. What about when something goes wrong? Who's going to fix it? And final question for now, what type of respect and reputation would you like to continue building in the marketplace? So there's no right or wrong except for what you decide is right or wrong. So let's move forward. Distributors can get your bars onto shelves. How do they do that? And then we'll talk about, as you see on the sort of sidebar there, what to watch out for, what to do, and what are some types of distribution. But all of these collaborators can help you get your bars onto shelves. A distributor often, as you know, will stock your chocolate and then ship it to retailers. A distributor might expect you to hand over your house account. So let's say, for example, that you're already selling to some stores. The distributor might want to take over those accounts as well. So this would be something that you want to know. You see our first how to avoid pitfalls, what can go wrong. You want to know, what are the expectations? What are your expectations of how this distribution relationship will work? And what are the distributors' expectations? You also want to negotiate and make sure that this arrangement works for you. Maybe there will be a long contract that you want your lawyer to look at. Maybe there will be a short contract that you can help write. But either way, you want to be involved in knowing what you are agreeing to and negotiating what those terms will be. And, you know, by the way, we can go into as much or little detail as you would like. I am going to just kind of lay out some general points. And then if you want to ask me anything specific about numbers, for example, some distributors might take 35%, some might take a higher or lower percentage. We can go into any details that you would like. Auntie is here to be transparent with you. A couple more thoughts about what a distributor does. And, by the way, I should add that most of the photos that you'll see in these slides are photos that I've taken of brands that I work with, whether as their distributor, broker, consultant. We'll get again into all those details. And I share these photos on my Instagram, Chocolate Uplift. So that's what we're looking at. So a couple more points on what a distributor might be able to do for you. Distributor might be able to introduce you to stores that you might not otherwise have had access to. For example, some stores only like to order through distributors because the stores, the retailers, the owners, the managers, they feel that it makes their life easier, that they can fill out one order form and be done. Or they can send one email or text to their distributor or their distribution representative and be done. So there are some stores that will only carry some brands that are carried through distribution. Now, in order to have that access, some distributors might want you to sign an exclusivity agreement saying that you can sell to no one but them. Again, is this good or bad for you? That's something that you must decide. If we look at digital distribution, and by the way, no, negotiate, and no, there's sort of a poetic alliteration there. No is, of course, just remembering that if something doesn't work for you, to say, no, what if we tried it this way? Or have you ever considered doing it that way? That you don't have to simply agree to everything that the other person wants. You know this. You can say, well, this might not work for me. What if we made an adjustment? You want to have a win-win situation where everybody is successful and happy. So what about this digital distribution? Have you looked at these platforms like Fair and Tundra? Well, these are venture capital backed companies that have entered our small artisan space. And whatever you think of the idea of big money players playing in our small artisan space, as you can sort of tell from my tone personally, I sort of asked myself, what are they really after? They're maybe after their IPO, their big cash out, their big buyout, and then leave everyone to wherever everyone falls. But who knows? What I do want to say, though, is that, again, if you like it, I love it. If it works for you, I'm thrilled that it works for you. And in fact, what I'm seeing is that some brands will find sort of a cocktail mix of what works for them. They might have a classic distributor. They might put some of their products on Fair. They might have different collaborators for different markets, different cities, different types of retailers. Again, it's all about putting together what works best for you. If you check out the digital distribution platforms and just type chocolate into the search, see what comes up. It's quite a mix. One of the platforms has got M&Ms on the mix. Another platform, I hardly want to say this, chocolate body parts. But you'll also find some very well-respected craft chocolate brands there, including brands that I work with. So again, if it works for you, let it work for you. The point is to know what you want and then to stick with your values so that if something's not working, you can change. And if something is working, you can go deeper. Okay, let's see. Shall we move on? That gave you sort of an overview of, again, a distributor will often purchase your bars up front, stock them, and then sell those chocolates to retailers. What about a broker? Auntie's advice, whether you're looking at a broker, distributor, or any type of collaborator, is do you have a fit? Not just from a business level. To me, that's almost secondary to if I have a fit at the personal level. What I mean by that is, do you know how the moment you meet someone, you get a sense about them, right? You get a sense of, I think I can trust this person, or, I'm not sure I can trust this person. You get a sense about their integrity. You get a sense about their passion for what they're doing. You just get some type of information about who that person is through your intuition or whatever you'd like to call it. So what I always love to do for myself and sharing with others, listen to that intuition. Do you have a fit? If you do, now it's a great time to explore fees. What services can this person help you with, such as FDA regulations, to just toss out that example? And will you have fun working with this person? Again, these are the types of things that I look for. You might have a completely different list, but the point is, know how are you evaluating if this is going to be the right relationship for you. For me, having some type of structure by which I evaluate lets me make sure that I'm not forgetting anything important. So that's the type of structure that I use. Here comes Georgie the cat, by the way. I guess you can't see her, but what a cutie she is. I'll show you some photos of her. We'll put her on the screen later if you like. So do you have a fit? And let's talk about fees now with the broker. I mentioned that with the distributor, sometimes fees or percentages could be 35%, could be higher, could be lower. With a broker, fees are usually less, meaning that you keep more of the money. And this is because often a broker might not keep your bars on their shelves. Rather, you might ship everything to the broker at a later point for distribution, or depending on your location and the retailer's location, you might ship directly to the retailer. Again, it's all about flexibility, all about what works for you. For some of the brands that you see in this photo, I work as a distributor where I keep bars on my shelf. And for some of the bars that you see in this photo and the others, I work as a broker where I do not keep their bars on my shelves, but rather I will develop orders for them. That's what a broker does as well, finds those retailers who are going to be the right fit for you. And then the makers would either ship directly to those retailers, or now they do ship chocolate to me, and then I distribute out. Again, it's what works best for you and for the retailer. Broker relationships are usually exactly that, relationships. It's not so much about the transaction, but about finding the right store for the right chocolate maker. So I hope that this is starting to give you some detail as to the nuance of different types of collaborations. I'm excited about our vibrant orange slide because I also wanted to share about representatives and marketers, and I haven't forgotten consultants. We're going to cover it all. But I also wanted to remind you that no outside person is going to be the magic fix for your business, that ultimately you are your own best collaborator. Yes, distribution and brokering and consulting and marketing can be crucial. And when you have that right set of partnerships, wow, that can be so exciting for the success and trajectory of your business. But without you steering the ship, what will that trajectory be? And so just a little auntie's advice there, that you are the center of it all. So while we're focusing on you as the center, and here comes Georgie the cat stepping over the chocolate display I've set up here for us. Oh, she's so pretty. I wanted to share. What about sales reps? I'm sure you know that term as well, a representative or a sales rep. Well, here's something kind of neat to think about. A sales rep might be an employee or a contractor of the distributor, or you could have your own sales rep, of course, who works for you. So if it's a distributor's sales rep, that person is usually engaged by the distributor to service a particular territory. Let's say, for example, that you work with a distributor who is working with retailers in different parts of a country, different parts of the US, for example. Maybe one representative might focus on one part of the US, another representative on another. This can be a wonderful way to focus on where you'd like your bars to be. This can sometimes also be a missed opportunity to miss out on other areas. A country like the US, which is a big country in terms of the craft chocolate market, as well as in terms of geography. What if your rep is only covering a certain region and you would like to be in other regions? Well, that's where you want to know and negotiate and say no where you need to. Again, to not just hand everything over and expect some outside party to work some magic. If it were that easy, wouldn't that be fun? But it's really, again, about you keeping an eye on who's doing what, who's doing it where, and is this really working for you? So again, as I'm sure you know by now, I'm not criticizing any one method over another, but I'm putting that focus on you, what works for you. So you might have a sales rep who works for the distributor. And again, even that phraseology, where is the loyalty? Here I am saying I'm not going to criticize, and I'm truly not. I'm just asking you questions that you might want to ask. Where is the loyalty if something goes wrong? Because shipments will go missing and chocolate will bloom and all of the things that we've seen happen will happen. And then who pays for that? Who takes responsibility for that? If it is a distributor, often they will say, you take responsibility for that. If it is a big distributor, one of the industrial distributors that sometimes has programs for small brands, you might have seen some of these. If it's a mega distributor, I will say be careful, because not only will they say that any discounts, any delays, anything that affects cost, not only does that come out of your profit, but those mega distributors will often charge you for the chargeback. So for example, if chocolate is returned or it blooms or there's just simply a discount given, you not only pay for that as the chocolate maker, but then you're charged a fee on top of that because the distributor had to handle that. So just something to be aware of. Again, know what you're signing, know what the expectations are, know that if it's the distributor's representative, that's different from your representative. So what does that mean for you to have a representative? Well, maybe you've already worked with your own representatives. For example, maybe it's you. And maybe every time you leave your house, you give out chocolate because you're passionate about it. Maybe you're already sending out samples to different retailers every week or every month and following up to see if they liked it and see if they'd like to stock it. You're basically being your own sales rep. You're building relationships, you're sharing your chocolate. Maybe there's someone on your team. If you are building a team, different people doing different exciting things in your business, maybe someone on your team is your sales rep. You can do a lot as your own collaborator. Maybe a distributor or broker will have relationships you don't have, but maybe it all fits together, that you're building your relationships, we're building our relationships, and what if we can put that all together for you? One more thought while we're on this zingy, zesty orange slide. What about a marketer? Marketing can be, I don't want to say the forgotten piece of business, but sometimes it can be so exciting when we're doing something we love to just assume that everybody's going to find out about it. And once they do, they're going to love it too. Again, if it were that easy, wouldn't that be fun? But as we know, we've got to tell people. And so as you saw in the video montage that I showed, when I opened the chocolate tours, after I had run the business for a couple of years, news media started to find us. I thought, wow, well, that's exciting. Okay. So I felt that I was in a very lucky position, that I was doing something so new and different. The news thought we were newsworthy, and they came out, and at no cost to me, they taped all of these videos and they put us on TV. And I thought, this is crazy, but this is fun. And oh my goodness, it was wonderful for the business because now people heard about us. So what are you doing? What are you doing that's newsworthy, in the sense of, has your local news outlet already covered you, whether it's in print or video or whatever the platform might be? But that's part of marketing, promoting your story. That shades into public relations, but we're putting it all in that category. Hyper local can be so powerful here because the news stations, the written media, they want to show their local audience what is happening in their locality. Well, you are happening in your locality. And so the marketing piece of it is something that maybe you want to talk with a distributor or a broker about doing, if that's a service that they can add for you. Or again, maybe that's a service that you add for yourself in-house. But I did want to mention the importance of asking yourself, is this a road that I would like to take for my business? You're asking yourself, getting into some media opportunities. So again, you're leading the way into all of these opportunities. Your collaborators are helping. Are you ready? So here's where I would like to talk a little bit about consulting. So if you recall, we talked about a distributor, of course, usually stocking your bars, buying them and reselling them. A broker who is more of a facilitator. And if you're like me and a distributor and a broker, you're doing different things for different brands based on what they need you to do. I love marketing. I love PR, whether you are doing that or you've got someone assisting you with that. That's an important piece of it. Maybe you've got a rep, maybe you're your own rep. What about consulting? Well, here's where we can talk about that. Okay, so beautiful Blue Cacao. When I first met Emily, she was so kind and so passionate about her mission of helping to revive the El Salvador cacao and chocolate world. And she visited me in Chicago and she brought me the bars that you see on the left. And I was so excited by the taste. I was so excited by her story. And I couldn't really read the fine print. And so I asked her, well, would you be open to Chocolate Auntie maybe making a few suggestions as to how we might be able to get your chocolate bars so that where everybody will not only have the reaction of, wow, I'm excited about the taste and the flavor and the story, that is, excited about the taste and the story, but also excited about the visuals. Because let's face it, the eye buys before the tongue tastes. Isn't that true, right? Unless it's, sampling and everybody can taste before they even see exactly what they're tasting. Usually the eye buys before the tongue tastes. And Emily is such a professional and she wanted to listen to my professional viewpoints. And so I shared with her, well, the number one issue that I do see with new makers looking to enter the market is packaging. Usually, my goodness, you've got an amazing story. You know how to make chocolate. You are doing incredible, delicious work. And what about the visuals? So making the font bigger, making the package something that just sort of more jumps off of the shelf, as it were, into the eye, and also telling the story in a very clear way. Is this just about Central America overall? That's fine. Or is it specifically about El Salvador? In the first iteration, Emily talked about Central America, but as I listened to her story, she was really talking about her own homeland of El Salvador. So why not put that right at the front of the label so that people know this is an El Salvador story? Well, guess which bar the retailers loved? They completely loved the new designed bars. And if you notice in the picture we're looking at, different shapes and sizes, that's something else that retailers get excited about, different shapes and sizes, because they can now offer different price points to their customers. So we're sort of adding an element with consulting, right? Distribution and brokering, we're focused on getting your bars onto shelves. With consulting, we're focused on, do you have the right bar for the right shelf? Do you have the right product for the market that you have chosen to enter? And if not, that's okay. What can we do to tell your story visually and with words in a way that is true to you while also giving the retailers what they will understand? Because again, you can have the best flavor and the most amazing story, but if it's presented in a way that the retailer and the end buyer, the eater, if it's packaged in a way that doesn't grab them or that they don't quite understand, your story might not have the same chance to be told. So let's take another look. Oh, below, another wonderful brand that I love working with. And you see on the left, the original packaging, winning awards for the delicious flavors, right? Fabulous, fabulous chocolate. And yet these were smaller bars that didn't have the impact of the new packaging that Mark and his team put together on the right. Would you be surprised if I told you, same chocolate, right? Same inside, but different outside. Would you be surprised if I told you that none of the retailers in my circle wanted to buy the bars on the left, but many of the retailers in my circle wanted to buy the bars on the right? Same chocolate, same story, different packaging. And so that's another example of the importance of consulting. And maybe you're your own consultant and maybe you do that evaluation. Maybe you look at other bars that are in the stores that you'd like to be in or in the other venues that you'd like to be in, and maybe ask yourself, how would my chocolate look alongside those bars? Would it stand out? Would it be part of the team, part of the family, part of the community, or might it be overlooked? We want to make sure that your amazing work is not overlooked. So again, a distributor, broker, consultant can sometimes help you with this. Sometimes you might be doing that in-house, but I have seen that it's important to let your packaging communicate to the retailer and the eater what you want to communicate in a way that those retailers and eaters will understand. Can we go even a little deeper? Can you notice the difference between now the bar on the left and the right? Okay, so we've done the, Mark and his amazing team did the amazing packaging upgrade, but we kept going, we kept refining. Have you spotted the difference? Here we're told the title of this bar, so to speak, is Patagonia Maqui Nativo, okay. Here we're given the translation, Superfood Wild Maqui Berry. And I don't know if you can see that clearly or not. I've got a screen here that shows you the English translations or interpretations a little bit larger. So the idea here was that, yes, the newly rebranded Obolo bars were doing very well in stores. There were some questions arising, though, where retailers would say, Valerie, wait, I like the flavor of this blue bar, but what does Muña Muña Andina mean again? These were, even if you speak Spanish or not, these were very specific Chilean herbs that many people here were not familiar with. Now, that was part of the enticement, right? Specific Chilean herbs that we normally don't get to eat. Wow, this is exciting. I want to try that, people would say. But what is it? People weren't quite sure. So I suggested, what if we explained that this is wild Andean peppermint? Now, people in the States, when they're looking at that label, might have a better understanding of what that flavor might be. The eye gives us information, the eye buys before the tongue tastes. What else, by the way, do you notice about these beautiful Obolo bars? For example, we've got the peppermint bar in a nice cool blue. We've got the chili pepper bar in a nice hot red. And this was all from Mark and his team. They put this together so beautifully. Does it seem like a good idea or a cliche idea to have the cool blue explaining a cool peppermint and to have the hot red explaining a hot pepper? Well, whether you think it's good or cliche or not, I can tell you the retailers love it because, again, they're getting visual information at a glance as to what is going to be inside that packaging. So again, I'm just tossing it out there to you that when you are working with brokers, distributors, or any type of collaborators, if your bars are telling an intentional story that is true to you, that is powerful. If playing against the type of the color matching the flavor, if playing against type is more true to you, try it. But the idea is to be intentional, not to have sort of accidental, random packaging that doesn't tell who you are or what the chocolate is, but to have very intentional packaging that ties your brand together. A couple more notes while we're on this screen. Do you notice the shape of the colored label? And now if you imagine that this were not a chocolate bar, but a bottle of wine, yes, these are wine labels. And many people in the States, when we think of products from Chile, we know Chilean wine. And so Mark and his team, by using that same size and shape sticker, whether it's unconscious or subconscious or conscious or whatever it is, it sort of, again, lets the retailer and the eater have a familiarity with this product, whether we even realize it at first or not. There's something very comfortable and familiar and nice looking to our eyes about that shape. And then we start to think Chile, wine, chocolate, labels, it all starts to tie together. So again, you get the idea. And if you're working with a consultant or with your distributor or broker, these could be the types of conversations that you might want to have.
Valerie.
Yes.
Teresa, I don't mean to interrupt, but since you're talking about packaging and the label and everything, I just want to let you know that you shifted in your frame, in your seat. So you're chopping off the top of your head.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for telling me, Teresa, and thank you for interrupting. You know, my light has shifted, and instead of shifting myself, why don't I shift my notes? Well, thank you, my dear. Please interrupt anytime with any helpful hints or questions or anything else. How's that? Now I want to get Georgie the cat back for you too. Did you see her before? We'll fit in Georgie later. Okay, well, thank you. All right, so before we leave our Obolo case study, did you notice I've been smoothly working in some case studies for you? We had the Baloo case study a little bit, and now the Obolo case study. I wanted to show you one more Obolo photo for now. And I also wanted to mention that Mark, who founded Obolo, is actually a native English speaker. So he was born in the Midwest in Milwaukee, which is about 90 miles away from Chicago, where I am. So I didn't want you to have the notion that consulting is only if it's in a language that's not your native language. I don't know if you would have thought that, but the idea is that having fresh eyes that have seen many chocolate bars and many retailers, having those fresh eyes look at your chocolate bars and how they will work for retailers, that can be so valuable whether you share a native language or not. So Mark's English is perfect, just as his Spanish is perfect, but he did see the value again in just having the auntie's fresh eyes. And Mark doesn't actually call me auntie. He's, I don't want to say he's old like I am, because he's not. But he's more of my generation, to put it that way. In any case, I did want to show you the back of the Obolo bar, because this is something else where, again, I put it to you, is the back of your bar giving the information that you want it to. So again, we've got the munya munya, and now we're explaining a little bit what that means. And now we're giving some really crucial information for the bean to bar market. People want to know the cacao country of origin. And isn't this exciting? You know, going back to myself as a little girl, we didn't think about cacao countries of origin back then. We just thought about Hershey, Nestle, Belgium chocolate. But as more and more people understand today, cocoa beans do not grow in Switzerland. They do not grow in Belgium. They do not grow in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Where do they grow? We know where they grow, and our retailers and eaters want to learn more. So explaining that the cacao is not just from Peru, but from the Pangoa collective already starts to give the mind of the retailer and the eater some focus into, okay, this is special, this is specific. Maybe I'd like to learn more about that. Maybe I'd like to compare tastes of different bars made with different Peruvian origins. This is a way for you to educate the retailer and the eater with the cacao country of origin. People want to know percentages. People want to see a clean ingredients list. Oh, cacao and sugar, all you need. Thank you. And now adding some cocoa butter and of course the special mint. We've got organic, we've got a best by date, we've got soy free, we've got all the details that people are looking for. So the idea again is to make sure that you're using your label real estate wisely and with intention. Okay. Couple more consulting tips to show you. I know that you know Rocca Chocolate. I love working with them as well. They needed no help from me on their labeling. I simply wanted to show you another way to think about using your label real estate. We've looked at the front of a bar. We've looked at the back of the bar. What about when you open the bar? Yes, we want to see your beautiful chocolate, but might you not also want to use that interior label space to tell us something, to teach us something, to show us something. And so what Raka tells us and teaches us and shows us is their transparency report, which you can go online and read, and they give you some notifications there about how to do that. But they basically give you a little snippet of their transparency report right inside. And here I chose Pengoa, which is what we had seen. Whoops, I don't know how to flip the right way or the wrong way. Go back. Here we go. We talked about Pengoa, Peru bar, and now we see that Raka is using that same cacao for some of their bars, and they've decided to give us a little snippet of their transparency report. So again, it's simply one idea of what somebody is doing, of what Nate is doing. And the idea for you is, what would you like to be doing? And again, your distributor or broker or consultant or any collaborator, or you, if you are your collaborator, can think about these questions so that you are maximizing your opportunities. Okay, I wanted to give you one more quick case study before we get into some additional details and retailers. Violet Sky chocolate. Now this is you might say, I don't want to say one brand is more micro than another, but I was about to say micro brand. When I say micro brand for Violet Sky, I'm not even thinking about volume. I'm thinking about focus. So Violet Sky's focus is not so much on having large distribution. Hans's focus is on really taking care of his local South Bend, Indiana community. So again, by micro in this case, I'm not discussing volume, although that's important to think about too, of course. Are you looking to scale up to the volume where you'll be in grocery stores? Or are you looking to distribute to a handful of stores that fits your volume where it is now and where you want it to be? There's no right or wrong. It's about you. And so Hans's focus is very much to take care of his local community. When he's got extra capacity and extra production, I distribute and broker for him, and stores love it when there's Violet Sky chocolate available for them. And when there's not, they understand, and they stock their shelves with other wonderful chocolate bars. But the point being, again, that if you've got a micro focus in terms of a hyper local geography, that can be exciting too. And to think about, what does your local geography want? And so in terms of Violet Sky, what do you notice about this bar? Black and orange. If you're of a US mindset like I am, do those colors say what holiday? Halloween. I'm going to share some thoughts about holidays with you and how to really maximize your work with the distributor or broker during different holiday seasons. And to give us a little taste of that for now, this is a bar that can be lovely for Halloween. Now, retailers and eaters in general love seasonal bars. Why? It's something new. It's something fresh. One of the things that I would love to do one day is maybe at one of the big festivals when they open up, or maybe we'll do something virtual. We open up whenever we want to open up, right? We put together whatever we want to put together. Maybe I'll gather retailers and chocolate makers to come together. Maybe Andal and Baloo will do this, because as a broker, distributor, consultant, auntie, I see a disconnect sometimes between what you want to do as the chocolate maker and what the retailer is really looking for. Now, the retailers love you and the eaters love you, and they know something of how hard your work is as a chocolate maker. And none of us could do what we do if you didn't do what you do, making amazing bean-to-bar chocolate. That being said, retailers often come from more of a merchandising school of thought, meaning that their goal is having a creative shelf, artistically, beautifully, elegantly displayed, or whatever their, sort of style is. And then they want stability in terms of, okay, we want these 5 bars from this same maker all the time. And when we run out, we want a replacement now. And so they want that consistency. And if you're someone who's, well, I don't want to make that bar anymore, I want to make another bar, that's okay too. But that retailer might not be the retailer for you. You see what I'm saying, right? Now, in addition to wanting stability, we want these 5 bars all the time, say many retailers. They also say, well, what have you got that's new for the upcoming holiday? and then showing them something like a special bar for Halloween or for the Christmas winter holidays or for Valentine's Day or for Mother's Day, showing them a special bar for that time. Oh, wow, can you really maximize and optimize your opportunities with a distributor or retailer, distributor or broker selling to a retailer? Because again, those retailers want something new and fresh. When they see a bar like this that's giving them something seasonal, that's exciting. Couple more thoughts on that. Time together, you can see, right? We've got white chocolate in a white wrapper. Again, whether you think that's a good idea or a cliche idea, the retailers and eaters often love it. And if it's chosen intentionally, whatever your packaging is, that's exciting when it's done by choice, not by chance. You see again this nice, clean, simple ingredients list. Let me ask you this though. Let's see if I can toggle backward as well as forward. What do you notice about the different fonts, the different typescripts, the different labels? So here, for example, we've got a stamped printed label. Here, if you can see, we've got a sticker on a black sky with some sort of cosmological looking scenes. Different, right? Okay, now I've gone too far. Go back, go back. There we go, technology. So it's one toggle button, so simple. In any case, what I wanted to ask you is, which label do you prefer? Get your votes in now. Well, one of the exciting things that I found in working with Hans on this very small labeling project, this was his idea. All I did was come back to Hans with some feedback from a retailer. And we had one retailer who was actually the biggest buyer outside of Hans's locality, was the biggest buyer of his bars. And that retailer said, you know, I've got some questions about the label. Would it be possible to go in a different direction? And I said, well, you know, let's talk about it. And I'll talk about it with Hans. And so one of the things that I love to do as a consultant, broker, distributor, auntie, is share ideas and communicate and connect ideas. Again, if we could get the retailers and the chocolate makers together, oh my goodness, the exciting communication that could happen. So I facilitated that communication, and Hans was very open-minded. I keep hitting the wrong buttons. There we go. Hans was very open-minded. Long story short, Hans put together this stamped labeling for that particular retailer. Others liked it as well, and Hans has continued forward with it. So by communicating, you never know what ideas are going to come to you through someone else's idea if it resonates. Okay, so moving on from my toggling adventures, the sort of final point I wanted to make there again is simply to choose your labels intentionally, because by sharing your story, you're letting retailers and customers know about you, and you want to make sure your distributor or other type of collaborator can help you. Okay, so we're coming into some more, I think, super fun slides as part of a case study again to share with you about Obolo. So one of the things that I love to do is, as you've already seen, is connecting people. So when I heard that Mark of Obolo was going to come to the States for the Northwest Chocolate Festival, I thought, this is wonderful. Let's get some connections. Some connections going. We were just launching his brand with the updated packaging into the US market. One of the things that I love to do in terms of connecting people is remember the influencers. Are you happy with your presence on Instagram? Is it fun? Is it hard work? Is it driving business? Is it taking time away from business? Well, Auntie's advice would be get introduced to influencers, because whether you love social media or don't love social media, there are people looking for chocolate on social media or just looking for new ideas. My Instagram, for example, retailers know that it's pretty much my catalog, and they can go to my Instagram and they can see what's new and they can see what brands are fresh. I have a page to a new one that I'm unveiling that I'll show you. But retailers who work with me know that they can also go to my Instagram And then they know they can click the hashtags and see who else is talking about this brand. So there's Mark, there we are at the Northwest Chocolate Festival, there's your chocolate auntie. Now you might know some of these faces. You might know Sharon in Italy from The Chocolate Journalist. You might know Shay, who's from the Chicago area. She lives, gosh, I want to say maybe about 40 minutes outside of Chicago. Anyway, she's Chalk Coffee Wine. You might know sweet My Year in Chocolate 2016, Trish. She does the chocolate alphabet games and the craft chocolate community word of the week. She's just really, all these folks are very beloved on Instagram. Point being that these are some people whose accounts you might follow on Instagram, and I gathered them together to come out and meet Mark. This is KJS Boulder on Instagram. You can see his sort of wry, humorous look. That's his approach. Really, really sweet. And then sort of hiding behind the Munya Munya bar there, you've got Jess of Dessert Geek. She's got a huge following, like Sharon does of The Chocolate Journalist. So in any case, you get the idea. We set up a meetup. I set up a meetup and got everybody together. Mark brought samples for everybody. Everyone took photos. And now the word continued to spread. So remembering that in your overall portfolio that you might be putting together, working with distributors here or a broker there or a consultant for this project or that project, remember the influencers. If this is a way for you to share your story, why not work with influencers to let that happen? We had so much fun that day. Okay, next piece of advice is retailers. I know that you're already working with some retailers in some cases, and I know that you want to meet more retailers in some cases. So this piece of advice is nothing new, but what I'm really recommending is, if it works for you, building that personal relationship. Now, here's where I don't want to say there's a little bit of controversy. That's such a strong word, but I'll phrase it this way. There are some distributors who might not want you to get up close and personal with their retailers because they might worry that you would then cut the distributor out and just work directly with the retailer. They might not think that you're doing this out of any ill will, but they might think, I don't know what they think, but they might think that that's what could happen, that it might be more efficient, it might be simpler, whatever the case might be. My personal feeling is that I love to connect people. We're all one community. And if I'm not giving any service or value, then I should be cut out of the relationship, quite frankly. The reason that the chocolate makers and the retailers I work with do not cut me out of the relationship is that they see the value that I bring. For me, as I believe it is for you as well, yes, it's about chocolate, but it's also about people. And I love to share ideas, promote on Instagram, do videos, do tastings. And so with the makers and retailers I work with, they see that when I'm in the mix, these other things are happening as well. For example, I hold chocolate tastings for law firm groups, corporate groups. I'll gather together bars for them to taste. I'll bring cocoa pods. I'll send them cocoa beans. I'll give them a whole package so that they can learn about chocolate from bean to bar. And we'll taste it and we'll have fun. And it is a great way for them to learn as well as to build their team spirit. And so I hold these events and I use the chocolate of the makers that I work with. To me, that just makes sense because I love the chocolate and I want to promote them and help them and support them. And so I'll buy the bars wholesale and then sell them retail to the event organizers, the law firm, whatever it might be. And we can get into some nitty gritty of pricing too. That's fun as well. So the point being is that I love to add value to those relationships in a multiplicity of ways. So I never worry about bringing together somebody like Mark of Obolo and somebody like my dear, dear friend Scott, who owns Toto's Market here in Chicago. I know that a strong relationship makes everybody stronger. And so after the Northwest Chocolate Festival, Mark flew to Chicago and I flew home to Chicago, and I introduced Mark to some retailers. And Mark had already shared samples with me that I could share with the retailer. So Scott was already carrying Obolo bars, and then Mark's holding up a new one back there. And we were able to do a tasting in store so that more people coming in could learn about the chocolate. You get the idea, right? So not just getting introduced to retailers, but you don't really know who the retailers are. What if you do know who they are? And what if you can then support them with what they might need, extra samples for a tasting or an extra shout out on Instagram? You'll notice that this post here is from Mark's Instagram. I think that was my arm sort of reaching around to take the picture while the guys are holding the chocolate bars, and then Mark posted this one. So you get the idea that if you're looking for something relationship based in terms of how your chocolate gets out into the world, really getting to know your retailers can be an exciting way to do that. While we're in this case study, here's Mark again at Coco & Co. And this is another store in Chicago where the owner, Kim, is another dear, dear friend of mine. And so I thought this might be a place to talk about, since there's Mark with his bars on the shelves. Okay, what exactly are the logistics and the pricing, and how does this really work? Well, let me ask you this. Can you see behind Mark's lovely smile? Can you see the prices that Kim and her team have written on the shelf? So each Obolo bar is selling at the store for $11. So if the retail price is $11, what was the wholesale price? What did Kim buy those bars for to resell them to her customers? Do you know? Well, it's 50%. Most retailers use the 50-50 model. So if they buy it for $1, they sell it for $2. If they are selling it for $11, they probably bought it for $5.50. That's what most retailers like to do. That's their model. That's their system. That's how their structures are set up. And so, okay, so $5.50 buys the chocolate bar that gets sold on the shelf. Well, how does that $5.50 work out? Well, now that's for Mark and me to split in a way that's appropriate, isn't it? So I import the chocolate and I do store Obolo on my shelves, and then I deliver it, or have my delivery service deliver it to Kim. And so Mark and I split that $5.50 in whatever way is going to work. If I'm doing more brokering, if I'm adding a marketing fee, we discuss it. We have a chart and everybody can see, oh, I believe in transparency, always full transparency. But you get the idea, right? So if the retailer is paying $5.50, now you and your broker or distributor or whomever are splitting that portion in a way that's going to be a win-win. That's what we want, a win-win. And so what about shipping? Who pays for shipping? The chocolate's got to get from Santiago, Chile to Chicago, and then I get the chocolate, that last mile, you might say, from my distribution center, getting that to the different stores like Toto's and Coco & Co., as well as stores outside of Chicago, of course. Then it's not a local delivery, but using one of the shipping carriers like UPS or FedEx. So we'll talk about them too. And we'll talk about, what about distribution when shipping stops working? Oh, we've got still some good things to to come to. So the price gets split. Normally what we'll do, just to, again, give you sort of disclosure here, normally what we'll do is Mark has already incorporated the shipping costs into his price that he's offering me. So basically Mark is covering shipping because he's built that into the price. And that's something so important to think about, right? That when you are telling a distributor or a broker, okay, here's my wholesale price, have you added enough into that wholesale price to keep it profitable for you? Is there enough in there to cover shipping? Is there enough in there to cover what goes wrong if shipping goes wrong? You get the idea, right? So when you're making your wholesale price list, you can expect to double those prices. That's what the retail price will be. And why not build in shipping? Or if you're doing something different, that's fine. But you know that shipping's got to come from somewhere. And why not build in that shipping price if you can? Does that kind of add up? Does that stack up? We'll get a little bit more into the how the importing works, but I just wanted to share the pricing. That's what retailers are looking for generally in terms of pricing. I love this. Ikigai, it's about you. I just wanted to toss this slide in as just kind of another reminder that it's about you. You're making chocolate for all the reasons that you're making chocolate. You're doing your business for all the reasons that you're doing your business. And when you're focused on your values, your mission, your passion, you're not letting any standard template distribution agreement go against that. You're working it out so that that agreement works to you, not you changing to work for a distributor, but the distributor really should be working for you, right? If a distributor tells you you can sell to no one but me, well, if that fits with your mission and values and all of that, okay. But if that doesn't fit with your mission and values, then that's not okay. And then it's up to you to stand up and say, well, actually, I'd like to do it this way, or I'd like to go over here, I'd like to change that. But that it's all about you and what you're sharing. Okay, so we'll start to kind of come full circle, tie all these pieces together. What do I mean by that? Another little piece of Auntie's advice for you, going back to packaging. Do you recognize this brand? By Cacao. Wonderful couple, Juanra, who is from El Salvador, and Elisa, who is from Italy. They use Salvadoran and other Central American single origin cacao, and they make their chocolate at their adorable small space on the beach in Sardinia, Italy. What a beautiful visual from the family cacao farm in El Salvador to the beautiful coastal situation of the chocolate making. So why not infuse some of that nature, some of that story into what people will read about? So the idea in the project with Vi Cacao is really, they're so clear. Juanra and Elisa are so clear on their story and their mission and their market, how to simply communicate that in a clear way that will serve their goals of distribution in the US market. And so we talked for a moment about sharing the cacao country of origin. What about your personal origin? For example, do you ever go to a website, whether it's for chocolate or for anything, and you wonder, well, who's the person? Is there a person back there? It just all looks so corporate, so slick. Maybe it looks really pretty, but maybe it looks a little bit, I don't know, synthetic or robotic. You don't see a person. You're looking, where's the about us? You want to see who's the us, who's there. And so Auntie's advice is not to be that impersonal site. People want connection. People want art. Show us who you are. And so not only the cacao origins, but your origins, or whatever you'd like to tell us of your story. Remembering again that the eye eats first. Don't you love this sweet guy? So Juanra and Elisa found a sculpture in El Salvador that they loved, and they had an artist render it for them to create their custom mold. And so again, it's this idea of letting every piece of your work tell the story that you want it to tell. Okay, should we get now a little bit more into transport, shipping, FDA, all of these important details? You're ready to send your chocolate to the distributor or to the store. How are you going to do that? Well, here I am unpacking a box of Vi Cacao, but how did it get here? Well, specifically, it came via DHL, and specifically, the price was built in to the wholesale price that we worked out together, Excel spreadsheets and lots of math going on, and that's an exciting thing, right? Making sure that the numbers support you in your goal. So we did all of that behind the scenes. DHL arrived, and here we are. Now, whoops, I clicked when there I am, clicked when I didn't mean to. I keep getting into clicking pitfalls. There we go. How did we manage the FDA rule? So maybe you're in the US and you're looking at FDA regulations in terms of what do your nutritional items need to say on the back of your package. Maybe you're outside of the US, you're looking to ship into the US and you're already doing this. Maybe you're not looking to the US at all, but whatever the case may be, what I'm trying to say is there are probably some governmental regulations somewhere that you might have an eye on, and you're asking yourself, you know, am I working with these in an appropriate way? And I shouldn't say this, but we live in such extraordinary times. Everything's shifting, right? Collapsing, maybe shifting, everything's changing. You decide what you want to focus on. And so the guidelines from the FDA are actually pretty straightforward. I've got them in the notes that you can't see, but when you get the slides, you'll see them in there. I could open the links for you, but they're pretty straightforward. Basically, if you are outside of the US and you're going to be shipping inside of the US, you want to do a couple of things. You want to register under the FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act. It's basically just a simple form that you fill out saying that you're not sending any bioterrorism weapons or anything of that nature. I've never seen any problems with chocolate coming in under the FSMA, especially craft chocolate, especially small batch chocolate. So you want to register your facility where you make your chocolate under this FSMA. And then the other thing that you want to do is have an agent of record, somebody in the US who is basically the person saying, yes, I will accept delivery of this package. This could be your distributor, your broker, whoever it might be. So you want to register, you want to have your agent of record. And then the final thing you want to do is give prior notice that you're going to be shipping. And usually DHL has got a simple way for you to do that, or FedEx, but it's just, again, basically a form that you fill out online saying, I am going to be sending this chocolate and my agent of record is going to be accepting it, and I've already registered under the FSMA. So you do those three things, and that's pretty much it. One more item that I'll toss in there with the FDA. Have you noticed, if you're already shipping into the US, that there's kind of an unofficial $800 cutoff? And by cutoff, I just mean sort of a demarcation. So for example, if you're sending less than $800 worth of product, I've never seen customs or FDA stop the package and investigate it. It just always goes through, from what I've seen. If you're sending more than $800 worth of value, I will see them sometimes. Maybe they just pick out a box at random, or they pick something off the screen at random and they check it and they delay it, or they inspect it, or they ask some questions, or whatever it might be. So again, I don't think there's a right or wrong there in terms of don't send more than 800 or only send what you're sending, but simply to be aware that if you're sending more than $800 worth of product into the US, there might be delays. You might be held up, the package might be held up at customs just as part of a check. That being said, too, how are you packing your chocolate? Oh my goodness, all the work that goes into your chocolate, and then if it blooms or melts or somehow gets damaged in transit, I find that heartbreaking. That's the auntie in me, right? I want everybody to be whole and, you know, in one piece and undamaged. And whether that's auntie or just, you know, we love chocolate and we want it to come through and we don't want you to lose money or have stress over it. Packing your chocolate in a way that it can withstand any possible delays, or who knows, it's sitting out on an airplane tarmac, an airport, you know, runway for too long. Packing your chocolate in such a way that it will be protected from physical damage as well as from temperature changes. You know the importance of that. And I'm actually going to make a video and just show some packing ideas. I feel like I've kind of seen it all. I've seen packages come in all states of disarray and array and all manner of packing materials. I've seen that plastic is not the friend of chocolate, right? If you're wrapping it in shrink wrap or plastic wrap, the chocolate wants to breathe. It doesn't want to be in that plastic wrap. If you're wrapping it in silver insulation, chocolate likes that better. If you're using cold packs that don't touch the chocolate, of course, but that touch the box, wrapping the box that's wrapping the box. Do you know those Russian nesting dolls? Have you seen those where there's a doll inside a doll and a smaller doll inside the doll? Chocolate likes that. If you've got a big box and then a box and insulation and cold pack and a box and insulation and cold, and then way in the center is the chocolate. This can help protect your chocolate. So just kind of a side note there. That's actually, sort of a heart of the matter. No, you're going to all this trouble to distribute your chocolate. You want to make sure that it gets there in saleable shape, especially if your distributor is not going to be responsible for the cost of any damage. You want to have all of that worked out in advance. Are you packing and shipping well? And who is going to be responsible if something goes wrong? Okay, I'll toss in just one other note there as we're sort of approaching not only the end of our time together, but some might say the global collapse of the shipping industry. I don't know if that sounds dramatic or understated, depending on what your experiences have been. But I will tell you, well, have you heard what some people are calling FedEx? This might not sound nice, but some people are calling it FedUps because they're fed up with the terrible service that's been coming from FedEx. I personally have been in multiple scenarios recently with packages arriving damaged, arriving late, or not arriving at all. And then with the shipping carrier not taking any responsibility for that. So I've seen a definite change during this time of the current global situation, where shipping has gotten more expensive, it's gotten less reliable, it's gotten just harder from everybody's perspective. And this is with almost all of the carriers. I don't know that I could even say, oh, but there's one that's still having no trouble at all. No, I don't think I could say that. I will say that I've seen DHL's service still hold up. While the fees have increased, sending a small package has become almost not feasible at all with DHL, even though their service has held up. And this is just my perspective as of today, but I see a lot of shipments in and out. And I have seen with other carriers, whether national or global, international, trouble upon trouble upon trouble. So it's something to think about, right? How are you packing? How are you shipping? Who's paying for it? What will you do if it all falls apart? I can give you some specific thoughts on that as needed, but for now, why don't we move on? One more piece for now of Auntie's advice is, are you selling both wholesale and retail to the same distributor? By that, I mean, let's say that a distributor is buying your products wholesale and then selling them to the other retailers. But is that distributor also selling your products retail? Personally, I've not chosen to do that because I would see that as competing with my retailers. If I'm selling to the end customer the same product that my retailers are selling to the end customer, personally, I've never felt good about that idea. I know some people say, well, why? What's the problem? Lots of people do it. Again, it's for you to decide what makes sense for you. So in my mind, I go back to that quote. I won't try to toggle back. We know the trouble I'll get in with that. But I go back to that quote about doing the right thing. In my heart, that would not be doing the right thing. I want Toto's Market and Coco & Co., the retailers I mentioned, I want them to buy from me wholesale. I don't want to compete against them also selling retail. That's my choice. And I like my chocolate makers to know that as well. And so a really interesting idea came up though. What if there's a product that a chocolate maker sells that just isn't conducive to being sold wholesale to a retailer? That could be because the price is too high. You saw the $11 bar of Obolo on the shelf at Coco & Co. Most retailers will not currently, in the markets I work in, go for too many bars that cost more than $11 or $12. Minis at $1, fabulous. Bars at that $9, $10, $11 range, fabulous. There's a little bit of a gap in the middle. If you're making a bar that's going to fit that $5, $6 retail range, we've got some. There's definitely a need or a demand for more. Going above that, there are some retailers who will say, yeah, I'll carry that $17 or $25 retail bar and just kind of see what happens. Most retailers say that they do not have the buyers for a bar at that price. So again, just sharing some numbers with you, you decide what works for you. So for those products that might be so phenomenal, but but there's no retailer right now who's willing to give those products shelf space. I've set up a small retail boutique online for those products that I love, that you love, but that would literally have no home otherwise if it weren't for that. And so that's what I mean here by choosing retail versus wholesale with intention. Are you okay if your bars are being sold by the same distributor, retail and wholesale, or are you not okay with that? That's for you to decide. And then, depending on your decision, what other creative solutions or opportunities might you be able to work out so that you can have a home for all of your products that's done in a way that feels right for your values. All right, so we've covered lots and lots of tasty tidbits. I hope you agree. Looking ahead, again, have you noticed too troubles with supply chain, troubles with shipping, whether it's increased costs or decreased reliability? I certainly have, and almost everybody I work with certainly has as well. Have you also noticed increased curiosity about what is bean to bar chocolate and how can I try some if I'm an eater who hasn't tried some yet? Yeah, I've noticed that too. And have you noticed growing awareness among the general public that the chocolate bars we might have grown up with are not what they say they are, that they've got all of these horribles of human rights abuses as well as planetary abuses in their supply chain? More and more people are becoming aware. Well, what does this mean for us in the craft chocolate world? What does this mean for you in terms of working with the distributor? And what does that mean in terms of me eating that really delicious dessert that you see there? Well, what about restaurants? We've talked mainly about retail stores, and by that I maybe should have mentioned, I'm also trying to say I'm also including coffee shops, different types of dry goods, boutiques, anybody who is selling a chocolate bar, basically. That could be a chocolate shop, a coffee shop, a sandwich shop, a clothing shop. That's kind of become a chic thing to have some chic chocolate bars for sale in your chic clothing shop. What about restaurants? When I first started in the chocolate world and when craft chocolate then came to the forefront of my chocolate world, I believed back in 2005, 2010, I believed, wow, within a couple of years, every restaurant is going to want ethical chocolate. Every food service, every municipality, every hospital, every school, everybody is going to want it. We're still waiting. Aren't we? We're still waiting, but we're also working. We're waiting and we're working and we will get there. When I think about schools that serve a chocolate chip cookie to kids, and in that chocolate chip cookie is chocolate made by the blood, sweat, tears, and glyphosate, Chinese off-patent glyphosate Roundup that has been sprayed by other kids, it's heartbreaking. And so I am eager for the day when restaurants and chefs catch the bean to bar vision, and some of them have. So this fabulous dessert that you are seeing me enjoy in the photo, and yes, I ate the whole thing. I took some home, but I ate it later. This fabulous dessert is at a restaurant in Chicago called The Vig, and they've got a wonderful owner who has a heart for Haiti. He's not from Haiti, but he loves helping Haiti. And so when I met him, I asked, well, have you ever tried Escania chocolate of Haiti? He said, no, but I think I'd like to. And so long story short, we set it up with him and his chef fell in love with working with bean to bar chocolate. Like many chefs, he'd been familiar with Callebaut and Cocoa Berry, some of the big brands that many chefs and restaurants learn about in culinary school and then continue using going forward. But are those brands always traceable? No. Do those brands usually contain soy lecithin? Yes. Do those brands sometimes come with, just not the full story that some chefs and owners, like this particular restaurant owner who loves helping Haiti, do those brands sometimes not give, such a portal into that type of social justice? You know what I'm trying to say, right? In terms of flavor, story, ethics, bean to bar is what this chef fell in love with. So he revamped his recipes to use bean to bar chocolate, and I was there to do the hard work of tasting the results. Delicious. So what does this mean for you? Well, are you selling to restaurants? if you go back to Violet Sky, I've got one of Hans's bars here. One of his, again, what I called sort of a micro focus, maybe laser focus is a better phrase. He sells to a lot of local restaurants that are near him in South Bend, Indiana. And if you're kind of scratching your head, South Bend, Indiana, what does that really mean? If you're familiar with Notre Dame University, we call it here, it's a university town. The mayor of that town ran for president in U.S. elections. You might know Mayor Pete. So if you're kind of thinking South Bend and what does that really mean, that's where Violet Sky is located. So Hans sells to many restaurants. Is this something that would work for you, whether through a distributor or just going out to the local restaurants around you? You figured out right now, this presentation is not an ad for the Chocolate Auntie. I'm semi-retired. I've got lots to do. I love you. If we have a fit, we have a fit. If we don't, I still love you. This is about you and about you finding ways to share your chocolate that work for you. Maybe sharing with restaurants for their chefs to use will work for you. Again, especially as stores are closing, restaurants are reopening, everything's changing, right? So maybe having multiple plans within your portfolio of who are you sharing your chocolate with, maybe this can help. What about cacao and merchandise? You know, I find that when I share the cocoa beans that go into the chocolate, when I share both with retailers, they're so excited about this. They want to learn. They want the story behind the story. Similarly, when I share cocoa beans, well, back in the old days, we give these to people on the chocolate tours. Today, I send them out to the chocolate tastings that I do. But people are fascinated to taste their first cocoa bean if they've never tasted one. By the way, I also give them some insight into how hard the work of a chocolate maker is and how important it is to have good machines like Cocoa Towns. And I'm not just saying that. Those Cocoa Town winnowers, wow, they work. And so I ask people at tastings, or I ask the retailers, okay, see if you can get the husk off of this cocoa bean. And you know that often they cannot, or it's a big production. And they start to understand the price, the value, the labor, the love to get from bean to bar. And so what I'm saying is, are you literally telling that story? What if you were to send some cocoa beans along with your orders to distributors or directly to retailers? This enhanced storytelling helps people understand your price. It helps them understand the value of what they're eating. And it's a superfood, it's healthy, it's fun, and people get excited. So one thing that I'm seeing in terms of we're looking ahead to the future, more interest in process, that things don't just come from UPS or Amazon. Things come from hands and plants and working, and telling that story is so resonant with people. So are tote bags. Oh my goodness, when I carry my Obelo tote bag or Fruition tote bag or Dick Taylor tote bag, I get more compliments than if I'm carrying a brand name, you know, French label or something. Being a little silly, but you get the idea. People are curious. And so are you selling merchandise? Could this be a boost to one of your income streams? By the way, do you know what else the auntie sees? Stickers. People love stickers. Oh, I have my sticker collection here for you. Well, I have one sticker, but I've got stickers from many of the brands. Here's my Uplift Through Chocolate sticker. Again, just tossing out ideas. What will the future bring as so many things are shifting? Merchandise as another way to tell your story. Perhaps you're already finding success with merchandise. Perhaps it's something to come. Dancing with a cocoa pod outside of a retailer in Chicago. Doesn't everybody do that? You've heard my 5 S's of first class craft chocolate. These are my 5 P's. I don't think I'm always so kitschy, but you know, whatever. If it works, it works. 5 P's of ways or elements of your story to tell. What is your mission? And if your chocolate bar is not communicating that, is that a missed opportunity to really find your tribe of buyers? People want to know, what's your purpose? And does that align with my purpose? And then I want to be part of that world. People, we want to know your story. What about your team or your family or your cocoa growers you work with? Any time you can facilitate that personal story, that's very powerful. Of course, we want to know about your product, your process, letter missing there or something, but we want to know how does it go from bean to bar. The final P, if you're doing a business analysis, is profit. You don't necessarily need to share your profits, although if you're Askinosi or Raka and you're really into your transparency report, that's okay too. But again, these are ideas about what's coming in the future. People love transparency. People are tired of being sold something that's not what it pretends to be. And you are the antidote to that. And I'm excited about that. Oh, I'm not going to show this video. Number one, we don't have time, but I show this video. Whoops, let me just move on.
It's Teresa. Just for the sake of time, it's 11:54. And I just want to ask the participants if they'll just wait around, if they have the time to stick around, for some question and answer, because we are running out of time. But so I just wanted to, I should have interrupted sooner, but you have so much amazing information that I didn't want anybody to miss any piece of this information. So I invite everyone to please stay with us. We will go as long as we need to go for everybody to get all this good information and then get to talk to you and ask their questions.
Thank you, Teresa. You're very kind. Again, please interrupt me anytime. I know I've given almost too much information, but I'm glad that it will live in the slides and in the replay. That previous slide that we won't focus on just goes to highlight that people are asking questions about Hershey, Nestle, Mars, etc. They want you as an antidote once they know this story. Couple more quick ideas for you. What are the 3 big chocolate holidays, at least in the US? Any thoughts? Well, these are some beautiful bonbons by Gotham Chocolate of New York City, created for Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and Christmas/winter are the 3 big holidays. Even though chocolate sales have been yes and no for summer, that's typical for summer, but we're still seeing ramp up for Christmas, winter, Valentine's Day, and Mother's Day. Are you creating special products that are seasonal? Maybe that fits your goal, maybe that fits your size and your molds and your packaging, and maybe that doesn't. But I'm putting it out there to you that retailers, distributors, brokers, if you've got those special items for the big 3 holidays, that can be an advantage for you. A Valentine's Day shot, sometimes for retailers, I'll put together special sets that tell the color story. Oh, you'll notice some minis, always popular. What about drinking chocolate? Something else coming for the future. Crow and Moss drinking chocolate would not stay on anybody's shelf last winter. It just sold out instantly. Another product, while sharing product ideas, is what I call no-tella instead of Nutella. You get the idea, right? It's clean, it's pure, it's real. So Blue Cacao makes a lovely cocoa almond spread. It's just cacao, sugar, and almond butter. So no oils whatsoever. This is a trend I'm seeing, that not only do people not want the highly processed oils, there's a health sliver group that's growing that doesn't want any oil. So just sharing it as a potential idea. Next generation, I love teaching. I used to teach at Kendall College, Culinary College, also UCLA Extension. New generations, well, to me, you're all new generations, creating beautiful desserts with craft chocolate. I love to believe that's the future. Cocoa Town, this was at Violet Sky Chocolate. And so my final ideas for you wrapping up is that it's all about you, your chocolate, your values. These are the brands of the case studies that we looked at today. Who's this distinguished looking gentleman right there in one of my other photo montages? This was at the New York Salon du Chocolat with some other global chocolate friends who you might recognize. It's all about the people and it's all about you. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I believe in you. I'm proud of you. That's how Auntie feels about you. And I thank you. Reach out to me anytime and I'll look forward to it. Thank you.
Wow, Valerie, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Teresa. We did it and we're under time.
I'm not even a chocolate maker. My head is swimming. I usually like to ask a bunch of questions, and I have a bunch of notes and questions, but I want to give everyone here the opportunity to ask their questions. I'm going to just scroll back up in the chat, back to where the questions began. And let's see. Okay, Erin would like to know, what percentage does a distributor typically expect?
Yeah, great question, Erin. Typically 35% is kind of a range that you might look at. You might see a higher percentage, you might see a lower one, but usually you won't see under 35%. Brokers you might see under, other collaborators you might see under, but again, that's why I've seen it can be so important for you to build in your shipping costs, any sort of operational budget for the category of things gone wrong. 35% and higher would usually be distributors' fees.
And also, how about for the broker?
Yeah, for a broker, 15% might be more standard, and that's because the shipping scenario is usually not where the distributor is holding chocolate and paying for space and real estate, but usually or often with the broker, the chocolate will be going directly from you to the retailer.
All right.
Yeah, just to sort of add to that, these are just sort of averages or some numbers. You can negotiate and you can work your prices and work your conversation, but those will give you some kind of markers.
Great, thank you, Valerie. Okay, we have another question. Does the distributor usually prefer goods delivered, or do they prefer to work with their logistics partner and pick up the chocolate from the factory?
Yeah, great question. Again, this is about your negotiation, but usually delivered. Usually a distributor is going to look for, how can this get into my distribution facility? But again, you work with them. And if you need them to work with an agent to pick something up at the port, all of this can be managed and arranged. This will then affect pricing, and now we're paying agents, etc. But yeah, usually if you can get your product to the distributor, that's going to be something that the distributor likes. What do you like? And you'll work that out. I hope that kind of helps.
Yes, great. Okay, you talked a lot about packaging and the importance of packaging, and that brought up the question, do you have information on where to get the wrapping for chocolates?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, there's so many creative places that you can go. And gosh, I wonder, should I just sort of toss out random names that come to me, or maybe that person wants to reach out to me and based on your locality or what you're specifically seeking. For example, there are makers who want to ensure that their packaging is biodegradable, compostable. There are some retailers who will only buy now compostable, biodegradable packaging. What about the inner sleeve? That's so important. Many retailers now are also, and eaters are saying, well, can I compost this, or is this landfill? So depending on what you're looking for, there are definitely some exciting options. I'm not trying to evade the question, but just saying, yeah, there are many choices based on what you want. And feel free to reach out, and I would be fine to share some recommendations.
Okay, let's see. What do we have next? Okay, Erin is asking, what is the ideal weight for a case of chocolate bars for retailers?
Yeah, another great question. I love all these questions. So standard case size is usually not so much by weight as by number of bars. Standard case size is usually 10 bars or 12, so usually 10 or a dozen. There are some makers who just deviate from that in whatever exciting ways they choose, but usually standard case size is 10 bars or a dozen. And I'll toss in too, some distributors will break a case and charge you or the retailer for that. Some people, collaborators, will break a case and not charge. Personally, working with so many small retailers, I will not charge for breaking a case, and I will break a case. So if I've got a case of 10 Obolo bars and one retailer needs 5 and somebody else needs 5 cases, personally, I'll make it work. But again, usually 10 or 12 bars per case is standard.
Great, thank you, Valerie. Okay, let's see. Erin is sharing an experience followed by a question. In the past, when shipping chocolate to the US, our customers have received the chocolate with piercings in the box due to a probe on arrival. Why would this happen by customs?
Yeah, why would that happen? That should never happen. That's horrific. I guess my response beyond that would be a question back. What shipper did you use? I don't know if you want to share that or not, but I would definitely talk to whether it was FedEx or DHL about that, because if it's still, sort of in their custody before they're handing it over, that's sometimes something that they can, put some extra stickers. This is chocolate, don't stick a knife through it or something like that. Work with your shipper. If you've got an agent who's meeting the chocolate at the other side, sometimes that person can again just remind, open what you need, check what you need, but this is food, this is delicate, right? For example, DHL has special food boxes that usually will be, treated a little bit differently. So I would say, horrific. And then I would recommend, can you talk with your shipper and make sure that they're giving you the right packaging, the right labeling to prevent that from happening.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, we have multiple folks asking how can they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. I should put that in the chat too. You can email me anytime at valerie@chocolateuplift.com. And I am just today unveiling, sort of to time it with this webinar that, again, I just feel so lucky to get to do. My new wholesale page, I just sort of zhuzhed it up a bit. I put some testimonials. So chocolateuplift.com is my website /wholesale. I'll put that in the chat. And on Instagram, I'm at Chocolate Uplift. You can send me a note there if you like. So I hope those give you some good ways to get in touch.
Okay, Thomas has a question. Do they need a cold supply chain?
So meaning temperature control when you're shipping, if I'm understanding correctly?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Thomas, would you like to come live and ask Valerie your question?
Yeah, if Thomas wants to give any clarification to that. But yeah, temperature control, as you know, is super important. And if you can manage that with your carrier, for example, I don't know if you're shipping from a warm place, but I can tell you that one thing Emily of Bellew does is she works very directly with the shipper so that, for example, they keep her package in air conditioning until just before it's going to get on the plane. So if that's sort of what you mean about cold supply chain, managing every detail of temperature control, it's definitely worth it to do it. Oh, is that Thomas coming on?
Yes, cool. Valerie, I've invited Thomas to open his mic. Welcome, nice. Thomas.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Great listening to you, Valerie. It's a fantastic workshop.
Thank you.
My friend David Minkus at Letterpress, when he sends his chocolate distributor, he mentioned that it's all temperature controlled, and most of the other chocolate makers I know don't really have that service in their supply chain. I just wondered, is that something you recommend year-round, or is it just for summer months?
Great question. It really, of course, depends on the logistics. If Letterpress is shipping from LA and it's summer, that's crucial, right? To make sure that the delicious chocolate doesn't melt before it even leaves, the greater LA area. So controlling temperature every step of the way is so important. Sometimes it's at a place, the box is at a place where the pallet is at a place where we can't control it. And so that's why we have got our best practices of boxes within boxes, silver wrap around insulation, and basically creating an ecosystem inside the shipment so that whatever's happening outside the shipment, you've created a cold ecosystem inside the shipment. And if you can, again, manage with your carriers to make sure that they know what they're carrying and they're giving it the care, we hope, that they need it to, that it's picked up at the other end as quickly as possible. Yes, managing your cold supply chain, I would say, is crucial. And one more little note I would toss into that, humidity. Oh, I see humidity underestimated sometimes. And me being in Chicago where it's humid, Teresa being in Atlanta when it's humid. And I know some people are in places where it's even more humid if you're in El Salvador. And if you're in a place where you're making chocolate in humid conditions, You know what I'm talking about, that not only making the chocolate under those conditions, but humidity accelerates heat damage. So you can have heat bloom and you can have humidity bloom, and your humidity is going to accelerate all of it, basically. So I guess my final sort of idea there is, yes, a cold supply chain and a moisture-free supply chain. Humidity is not our friend in terms of shipping chocolate.
Yeah, when I receive, like I get a monthly subscription from Spagvola, and
Nice.
I get 3 bars wrapped in an aluminum,
Yeah.
insulation, and then it's in a big box with a lot of those peanut type styrofoam
Okay,
things. And I
good.
always feel bad with all the garbage I'm creating.
Oh, I do know what you mean. Hopefully those are corn-based biodegradable peanuts, and hopefully the chocolate is arriving safely. You've put your finger on something so important though, Thomas, and it's something that we didn't really go into in terms of our crystal ball into the future, but how can we ship and pack and transport in ways that don't harm the planet? And those ways have just got to come, right?
Great questions, great answers. So normally we will end promptly at 12, and I think Mrs. Ballard would be pulling the plug probably right now, because we want to honor the time for those who got up early and stayed up late. I think this is such a great topic, and there's so much to be learned, and most everyone is sticking around. So Valerie, if you're okay, we'll go for a few more minutes. And if anyone would like to come on live and ask Valerie their question, if you'll use the raise hand feature in the bottom of the Zoom panel there, and I will invite you to unmute yourself and ask your question. And thank you for attending, anyone who needs to go. We understand we're going a little long, but it's such information packed and so helpful, I think, for those in the business. Okay, Lynn, I'm going to invite you to unmute. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. I want to it's not so much of a question, but I want to thank Valerie for her generosity, and not just the generosity of today and this wonderful information that she's shared, but I actually shipped Valerie some bars of chocolate from Panama, and they arrived completely ruined. And she was so gracious in her response to me and sharing with me what happened. And just, it was just such a lovely learning experience for me. I just really want to let everyone know what a gem we have right here in the room today, and what a beautiful person with a beautiful heart, and just really knows her stuff and is so generous with her information.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Oh my goodness, you've made my day, week, and month, as I like to say sometimes. That's very kind. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn, for coming forward. Okay, anybody else want to ask a question? Or okay, I see in the chat, Paul would like to know, how can we work with you from the UK?
Exciting. Yeah, I would love to chat about that. If you'd like to email me at valerie@chocolateuplift.com, maybe we can talk about that. But yeah, that sounds exciting.
Great. I have just a couple questions and I'll let everybody go. My first question is, at the beginning, after your introduction, which I really loved, you in your story, because you highlighted on the concept that we talk about all the time, which is cocoa is more than chocolate, ways to be in the chocolate business or to supplement your income through tours and different things that you can do. But my question is, you threw out so many questions that people would need to start on this process. Is there a resource for them where they can, I don't know if you have it in the works, but I think a book is in the like, I would love to see them be able to go and grab a book that has all those questions, and Valerie might need to write a book.
I love the way you think, Teresa. Thank you.
So where can they find is there a resource for folks that are on this path that they can get, I know that, contacting you to be a consultant is is one avenue, but what about those that are just starting out and maybe don't have the resources to do that? Is there a resource where they can find information, or would you be willing to share some of those questions that they
Yeah.
need to ask themselves when formulating their plan?
Absolutely. Thank you for your kind words, Teresa. You know, I don't have a resource put together of that, but would love to do that. And I guess in a way, we do have it now because those questions are all in the comments of the slides. So yeah, so you've all got that now. And I'd be happy to even, you know, just sort of pull that out into one sheet or something if that's helpful. But thank you for saying that. And yeah, absolutely. I am glad if those resonated. They're in the notes or the comments or whatever you call it on the slides. And I'd be glad to pull that out into a separate sheet.
Oh, that would be wonderful, because I think you talked about defining expectations, and I think that if people are able to answer those questions, then they're able to define for themselves what's their expectations, and then have the language to ask the expectation of the people on the other side, the distributor, the broker, retailer, whomever they're working with. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. Someone is asking about the restaurant in Chicago. You mean the restaurant, the Vig on Wells Street in Chicago?
Right. So I saw a question from Marilyn that said, can you show bakeries again? And I asked a question back to her that I wasn't sure. I wasn't quite sure. I need some clarification, I guess. I wasn't sure if she meant the restaurant where I was eating that huge, delicious chocolate dessert. That was the Vig. Which I totally love and recommend them. They're on Wells Street in Chicago. But I couldn't remember, did I mention a bakery? And now I don't remember. What else was it?
I was wondering if maybe that was a typo and they were asking for Valerie instead of bakery. So.
Oh, you all are so smart. You know how this works. Cool, because I'm like, I've got lots of bakeries to recommend. Yes, I would be happy to, as well as packaging companies, you know, in the appropriate way or place.
Marilyn commented back, that's what happened. It was a typo.
Understood. You all know what's going on. I love it. And Lynn was kind too to put my, I was going to say to share my Instagram as well. Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, I love connecting on Instagram, LinkedIn, again, whatever kind of your favorite platform is.
All right. Well, I don't see any more hands raised or any more questions in the chat. So we can end our time together. Valerie, is there one last point that you want to leave everyone with? So sort of the quintessential, the most important nugget that you want to leave us with, and then we'll end our time together.
Sounds great. Thank you. I was going to just kind of echo the wonderful quote that you shared at the beginning, Teresa, and that Andal and Baloo always share, basically that we're in this together for happiness and freedom. And I love that chocolate is a way to uplift us all through that happiness and freedom. So thank you, our chocolate community. I feel very lucky and grateful to be part of it. So onward and upward.
Great. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you for everyone that joined us.